Welcome back to Midnight Grappler Animals, home of Flub Nation. I'm your host, Lan, and with me I've got honestly a true flubber, because Jurassic Park. When was the first time you watched that movie? Viewers at home, think about it. Think about the first time you watched Jurassic Park. A very distant memory, I'm sure. You know, maybe you were a kid. Salt, what was your very distant memory of watching Jurassic Park for the first time?
Oh, so long ago, Lan. An entire week and a half ago. It's really hazy.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I don't know if I should be surprised, given how long I've known you, and your propensity for not, not being on the dot with
important cultural touchstones.
Yeah,
I seem to miss most of them.
You missed Brody Quest, you missed Neil Cicerega's whole career, and you missed Jurassic Park. The holy trinity, you know.
Well, that's part of the point of this podcast, is to mitigate that problem.
Yeah, we're here to heal. You know, this is a healing podcast. We're really trying to get Salt back up to speed with human society. So
there we go.
You've gone through the entirety of the Jurassic Park and World franchise. Up to this point. Did you watch Dominion last night?
No, did not have time.
Did not have time. Okay. Well, okay. I'll cover that part then. But
it's not regrettable. Let's
not. Absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to sit here and chastise you for not watching Dominion. In fact, I'm going to congratulate you for not. You watched Fallen Kingdom and you decided, nah, I'm good. I don't need to go right to Dominion after this. Actually, let me just put Dominion off. And, that is the right move. That is the right decision to make. As a film goer, you watch Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and you're like, there's nothing left for me to there's no reason I should continue to be concerned with this franchise.
Yeah, I want to go back one minute. I knew Lan would open this episode with some kind of deep concern and surprise that I had missed Jurassic Park. And I realized this morning while I was making my breakfast how I hadn't seen that film.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I can kind of guess the why, because, the most recent one came out, was it a week ago? But how is my question.
So I also realized this because of a recent interaction with my parents. My parents have this really strange sense of self where they think they're movie buffs, but they're not. And I've never heard of that specific type of fake fan.
Are they self-proclaimed movie buffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not chastising their taste. I'm saying they watch like 2 movies a year. Like, that's fine, but you don't really enjoy movies that much. They barely even go to the theater. You're not meeting the quota.
You're not meeting the cinephile quota.
I don't know how you quantify it, but I remember even in like kindergarten hearing kids talk about the really iconic scenes in that movie. So I had an awareness of the film. I remembered certain clips of like when it might have come on TV at the background at, say, my house or someone else's house, but I had never sat down and watched the movie.
So for you coming to it now, what were your expectations? Like, what? Because you had heard about it all your life, right? Were your expectations set high for at least the first movie?
Yeah, my expectations were set extremely high. I was told this would be a sort of paragon of Spielberg's career. I had also gotten interested in watching it because I had watched the Light and Magic series on Disney. We canceled our subscription, but because my
your pirated copy of Disney Plus.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yes, we'll say that. But they talked a lot about the technical achievements of that film. So I saw it as an interesting sort of descendant of like Star Wars in a way of like, hey, these achievements shaped cinema. So I was interested in going into Jurassic Park as like, hey, this is a movie I know everyone loves, but I also know that it's seen as this big achievement in technical progress while also serving the story.
Right.
And I can say, as someone who has both high and eclectic standards, it totally meets that bar. It's an amazing movie. I loved it.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where it's not something you can say, oh, it's of its time, you know, like it's really good for its time. No, it still holds up even to this day.
Right.
And I think the real strength of that movie is that it still manages to feel so contemporary, even 33 years down the line.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's very few choices that date it. It has a kind of timelessness, right? The other realization I had while watching that movie is it fits firmly in the adventure genre, which is something we don't really do anymore.
Yeah, it's very, you know, we had that going a lot in the early 2000s. You know, I'm thinking about, there's like 50 different Josh Hutcherson movies from the 2000s that could very comfortably be categorized as adventure. But yeah, I was thinking about the genre aspect of it because, you know, there are horror elements to Jurassic Park. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't categorize it as a horror movie.
Right.
But yeah, like the adventure aspect of it, that it's interesting that that's been lost. You know, like you never really think about it, but I'm trying to think about like what the last adventure movie
Didn't they do? Wasn't there that Tom Holland movie based on a video game?
Oh, you mean Uncharted? The Sony Pictures masterpiece starring Mark Wahlberg as a 60-something-year-old man?
But that's my point.
No, sorry, like, I haven't seen that one.
They've all been these really like limp attempts, right? Like, I feel like this is a casualty of woke. Someone came in and said, this genre is deeply tied to imperialism and we can't do it anymore. No, I really don't know. I mean, there is a dated aspect to it, but Jurassic Park proves that you can do adventure movie and it doesn't have that like highly colonialist feel, as it were.
Okay, so I'm looking at Letterboxd under the adventure category or the adventure genre, just to get an idea of like what the recent movies that are categorized as adventure movies are. And we've got Barbie, we've got the Dune movies, we've got Mickey 17, Coco for some reason.
No.
A whole bunch of Harry Potter movies, Mad Max. Okay, Furiosa. I that one I could categorize as adventure for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's not fair to say the genre is dead, but it doesn't have that like, same hallmark it had.
But the thing is, I'm looking at this list, and a lot of these movies are from like a decade ago. So you're right. Like, it's not that it's gone. It's just that it's nowhere near at the level of prominence it was in like the 80s to 2000s, I'd say. It was like that peak era for it. And the crazy thing is we still have Jurassic Park movies coming out in this time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as of this recording, one came out less than a week ago.
Yeah. So you decided not just to watch Jurassic Park. You decided to go through the whole franchise, minus Dominion. So there's the first two sequels we've got, and I want to focus on those just quickly. What were your expectations for them? What did you hear about them prior to going into them, and how did you feel?
Yeah, and I'm going to add one more caveat to that. To listeners of this show, Jurassic Park is indeed a masterpiece. You could do a whole episode just on that movie. We are going to be blazing through 6 movies this episode. This is a franchise episode, to be clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had heard that you get diminishing returns on the sequels, but they are still fun. The sequels being Jurassic Park 2 and 3. You should still watch them. And I could immediately tell that this whole thing smacked of gender, I mean rewrites. It feels like a bit of a rushed product in certain senses. 2 is not iconic in the way that 1 is. It has a lot of sequelitis, right? Rather than coming up with a lot of new stuff to show you, we'll just go bigger, harder, faster on the thrills and chills you liked from the original outing. That said, there's still some really cool stuff. A lot of the first and second act action scenes go on a little too long, have a little too much CG, but there's some really cool practical effects, some really fun concepts. The gravest error of that movie to me was that they centered Jeff Goldblum while also writing him in a completely different fashion from the first movie. So the whole thing feels a little bit like serial numbers got scratched off. By the time you get to the third act and you get that set piece with the T-Rex raging through the city, it's so preposterous and so fun that you can forgive a lot of the silliness or blandness that might have gotten you there. That's my review.
I think the most interesting thing about The Lost World is, like, outside of the Indiana Jones movie, I think it's the only sequel that Spielberg has ever done to any of his movies.
Right, and he seems to explicitly regret that. Yeah,
like the filming techniques are there, the techniques and the technical mastery is there. But, you know, there's this vibe through the entire movie where it feels like this was something that, not that he was forced to do, but that he didn't really want to do. But yeah, like, even with that, it still manages to be like a semi-decent tread or retread even of the first movie. The third movie it's fun, I guess. You know, Joe Johnston was the one who did that one.
Right. Now, before we get into any of the Jurassic World stuff, in hindsight, I'm only speaking for myself here, 3 seems like a really good sequel.
Yeah, 3 seems like a masterwork compared to what we're about to really get into here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this for 3, it has a certain misery to it, and that is a for better and for worse situation. I was writing my review of it. You know, I didn't hate it. Sometimes I'll write a 2 or 2.5 star review, and it's non-derogatory. It's just, this is what this is, right? And one of my mutuals commented, like, hey, I watched this movie as a straight up horror movie, and I really enjoy it through that lens. And, you know, I thought, hey, good for him. Like, there are merits to that movie. It is a very cynical horror film and does succeed on a lot of those fronts a lot of the time. It knows what it is my point, which is all the while, not so much what I can say for the world movies.
You still get some really funny deaths in there too. Like the one that always comes to mind is that runway death.
Yes, I was thinking of that.
And it's like, even none of the world movies reaches that level, like that level of camp, you know.
Well, you know what? I think the reason why, and this is the perfect segue, is, you know, I said it's a miserable movie. It's a cynical movie. And so that feels tonally consistent with the rest of the movie.
Right.
World wants to have it both ways. It wants to have those shock value deaths, but also this, like, kind of moral sentimentality. It's very hard to describe how schizophrenic this franchise is.
Yeah, so let's get into World, because between Jurassic Park 3, which the other crazy thing is that movie came out in 2001, and it doesn't feel like it. Like, we talked about Jurassic Park feeling very contemporary 30-something years down the line, but, like, Jurassic Park 3 feels very 1994. In my mind, it feels like we're right on the cusp of the USSR disbanding. Like,
well, that's a little bit Joe Johnston. He's like probably in his early 50s at that point, late 40s.
Yeah, around that time, yeah.
But he has like one of those faces that He looks like he was born at the turn of the century. Turn of the century being 1800s to 1900s.
Yeah, he looks like he was born in the middle of the Boer War, like on the battlefield. But yeah, so between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, we had about 14 years. And in that time, you know, near the tail end of that, that's when we really started to ramp up on the franchise revival, right? Like you had the fourth Indiana Jones movie in 2009. You had the RoboCop reboot in 2014. Disney had just started doing their live action remakes. And then in the same year that this movie comes out, you have the seventh Star Wars movie. So, you know, that vibe of we want to dig up an old dormant franchise and make it anew had just been starting. And in hindsight, how innocent we were back then. You know, how
well. So I missed both of these franchises, right? Like I barely remember these movies coming out. So on that note of innocence, like was there a sense of hope or optimism or actual intrigue from you that, hey, this could be a fun movie?
Salt, this is where I revealed to you, I didn't watch Jurassic World in theaters. Actually, I hadn't watched Jurassic World at all until like a year or two ago.
So what made you decide to delve into this revival?
Let me quickly look at my review to see. Yeah, so I watched this last year. Oh, you know what it was? Because in 2022, I made a list of franchises that I wanted to marathon. And like a list of movies that I wanted to watch. Granted, I didn't watch any of those movies in 2022. It was down the line, you know, like the Indiana Jones franchise. I rewatched that, I think, like 2 years ago. You know, catching up on the Steven Soderbergh movies. There's a whole bunch. I'm looking at the list right now. There's a whole bunch I still actually haven't seen. But the Jurassic Park movies were on that list, and part of that was that like I would rewatch the first three movies and then watch the World movies for the first time. So I think sometime around like late 2024, that's when I was looking through this list again, and I realized, oh yeah, I still haven't actually seen you know, any of the World movies. And then at the same time, they were on Netflix and they were about to leave Netflix soon. So I'm like, well, no better time to catch up on almost a decade's worth of slop than now. So I watched Jurassic World for the first time, and
Chris Pratt was a mistake, folks. I think that's a good starting point.
I'm thinking back in 2015, Chris Pratt had just come off of Guardians of the Galaxy, right? So I think that's the mindset that I would have gone into this movie with. Is like Chris Pratt is the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, the Lego movie, and Parks and Rec, but I hadn't really watched Parks and Rec at the time. But yeah, like he was still not as oversaturated as he is now. But at the same time, he's not the kind of actor that I would have expected to take on a more like serious hero role, or like the Sam Neill kind of role in this. Like if we're talking about archetypes, you know, he is supposed to be the Sam Neill type character in this trilogy.
Yes, he is, and yet he isn't. Because Sam Neill is a very normal, believable guy, and Chris Pratt is still playing a superhero in this movie. Like that's what's such a crazy tonal shift.
Yeah, it's so generified too. Is the other thing is like how, man, where do we even start with this? Like this feels like a very generified attempt at trying to redo Jurassic Park. It's like if you know, the classic thing of remaking a thing and filing off the serial numbers, except in this case, you're not filing off the serial numbers. It's weird because this came out in the same year that Star Wars 7 did. And, hot take here, that movie was also just a retread of, the first Star Wars movie in many ways. So to have the same thing happen twice in the same year, I'm sure back then, if I had watched it back then, I would have already started to, get sussed out by it. But I think I would have enjoyed it more back then than I did watching it for the first time now.
Right. Well, there's a few factors of that, right? Like you're watching it without the hype. You're watching it a little older, so your tastes are more refined. My starting point is very similar to why Star Wars is a retread and a mess. And part of that reason for both of these films is the Gen X inferiority complex. Like these are both films made by Gen X directors who held up the works of, Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola, Scorsese. They held up all these films as absolute paragons of filmmaking. And to an extent, much of the oeuvre of those directors deserves it. But the problem is that they never, the Trevorrows, the Abrams, and so on, they never expanded further beyond that. They never got into directors that came after. They never got into international cinema the same way. They spent their entire lives wanting to be Spielbergs and Lucases themselves. So they've really trapped themselves in the shadows of their own heroes.
Yeah, it's a similar issue that we have in comics too, where a lot of the comics writers of today are trying to recreate the magic of the comics they read when they were in the 90s when they were like kids, right?
Right.
Not going to name names here, but you could look at. But
we have a whole
books.
back catalog you can listen to if you want to hear about that on patreon.com/Midnight Grappler Animals.
We have a whole 5 to 10 years of Batman comics that you can look at, or whatever any of the Steves are doing. But yeah, it's a very similar issue that's happening here. Is people want to recreate the magic of when they were kids watching these movies for the first time, and this is also something we explored in our Rogue One episode too, where it's that movie, for all the good it does, it is very much Gareth Edwards going, this is how I remember Star Wars when I watched it in 1977. This is, we got to bring back Darth Vader. We got to bring back, all the Glup Shittos. And here, you don't really have many Glup Shittos except for BD Wong's character.
Yeah,
that's the only Glup Shitto they could afford, I guess.
Who feels again like a different guy. It's so weird.
It's not that he was a very benevolent character,
sure, in
the original movies, but he didn't feel nearly as evil as he does in these movies.
Yeah, they're how do we do the 1970s, 1980s animated Disney gay guy villain? Let's put that in these movies. Yeah. Yeah, it's bizarre that he's there. I mean, it is so hard to point at a single issue. There is no singular keystone for what's wrong with these movies. There's the generational aspect. Chris Pratt's bizarre lead is the way his character is written is also bad. That's not entirely on him.
Trevorrow
the kids suck.
Kids suck. Yeah.
Trevorrow's a uniquely weird dude as well.
Is he?
Yeah, I mean,
elaborate on that. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, 2 points on that. Have you seen the Book of Henry?
I've heard of it, but much like any of Colin Trevorrow's movies, I haven't seen that one. No. Until
it was like a The Room type phenomenon for me. I watched it by myself only a few nights ago, but it was like watching Tommy Wiseau's The Room for the first time.
Really? Okay. Have you seen Safety Not Guaranteed?
No, what is that?
I haven't seen it either, but it's it's his debut movie, and it's also the movie that netted him the, the directorial position on these movies. So I'm wondering how good that movie actually is.
Right. Okay. That's what I was wondering about, is how he even worked his way up to both Star Wars and Jurassic Park.
I mean, it says something about the Jurassic Park franchise, or the Jurassic World franchise at this point, that like you could direct the big revival movie off of one solid indie hit. Like, that feels like the kind of pipeline you hear from Marvel nowadays, you know, like late stage Marvel, where, you know, an indie director with one big hit ends up directing, I don't know, Eternals or Thunderbolts. But like 2015, you know, you're staking the revival of your big, you know, dinosaur franchise. Like, what does it say about the faith that producers and Spielberg himself had, that like they just gave it to this guy of all the people to do the revival?
Well, you know, the Star Wars the original trilogy was made by a lot of quirked up white boys in San Francisco, so maybe that's how Trevorrow landed that gig.
Yeah. When J.J. Abrams started doing his stuff, they were like, you know what? We need to find our own JJ.
Right. So here's a quote I have from Trevorrow about Jurassic World. This is a quote I included in my Letterboxd review. Trevorrow explains the symbolism of the Indominus Rex. The Indominus is meant to embody our worst tendencies. We're surrounded by wonder, and yet we want more. We want it bigger, faster, louder, better. In the world of the movie, the animal is designed based on a series of corporate focus groups. Like in the same way a lot of movies are. They sit a bunch of people down and they ask them, what can we do to make the dinosaurs more entertaining for you? What would make you tell a friend to come to Jurassic World? And their answer is, of course, we want to see something bigger, faster, louder, more vicious. We want a killer. And they get what they ask for. How does that quote strike you, Lan?
Anodyne, I think, was the first word that came to my mind hearing that. What's another word that comes to mind? Sterile. Infertile, even.
I see. We're making allusions to the cloning process of the first film.
Perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like that quote really embodies the vibe of that movie.
Exactly.
Like, it explains everything about the decisions, even the storytelling decisions as well. Like, I think... See, here's the weird thing. The Jurassic World franchise at its core is about mankind trying to become God, and the hubris of that, you know, and the consequences of trying to play God, right? Mm-hmm. And in many ways, the Jurassic World franchise feels like that hubris. You know, like the Jurassic Park franchise is an ancient franchise.
What if I could be cooler than God?
Yeah, it's like, oh, we can bring this franchise back. We can revive it. We can do everything but better. You know, by putting in my cool genes, the dinosaur will be cooler this time.
The coolness part, the feigned, fake, forced coolness does explain a lot, right? Like, I see gender as so essential to this franchise. You know, there's... man playing God, right? That makes you recall some of Laura Dern's dialogue. And then there's the sort of masculinity in crisis as depicted by both Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum, right? Like they each struggle with their masculinity in different ways. But key takeaway is neither one of those men are invincible badasses like Chris Pratt is.
They don't speak to the dinosaurs. Like, they don't know dinosaurese.
Right.
Like, they're not the what's the word, not a jack of all trades, but, you know, in a way, a jack of all trades, you know, like the savant is the word. Sam Neill is not a savant.
You're right. He is a jack of all trades. He can raise a raptor. He can ride a motorcycle. You know, to cut to what's it called? Fallen Kingdom, the second one. I was so pissed off in the first 15 minutes of that movie when Bryce Dallas Howard goes to collect Chris Pratt. I turned to my girlfriend and I said, "Oh, he's going to be woodworking or some shit." And he was building
he's going to be in the mountains. Yeah. He's off the grid. He's off the grid. He's a real man's man, you know? He's got his own commune.
Yeah, dude, it's so Gen X, like whiskey and bacon loser energy. It's so upsetting.
Yeah, So do you have anything to say about Jurassic World, like in specific? Vincent D'Onofrio was in that movie, man.
I know.
Omar Sy is in that movie.
So that movie, I mean, there's so much to say. I'll try to make my points concise here. I brought up that Trevorrow quote because there's a really weird scene in the movie where, of course, we got to have generic guy at the computer. And I think it's Jake Johnson. He says something like, "Oh, what are we gonna have? A Pepsi-saurus Rex?" And then in the next scene, we cut to all these like Starbucks and Samsung ads. Like that's what's really weird about this movie too, is it wants to have the corporate representation both ways. Like it wants to mock capitalism, but also like thrive under it. You know, say what you will about Michael Bay, but he's never going to make a movie that purports to be anti-capitalist. He is very proudly making consumerist junk.
Yeah, he knows what the American dream is, you know?
Yeah.
I will congratulate Trevorrow and crew for actually beating Marvel to the punch with a lot of the things that people complain about from Marvel movies.
Oh.
You know, like "Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he?" ass dialogue, you know, all of the, like, all the hallmarks of, like, what people complain about Marvel movies nowadays. Trevorrow was already on that grind back in 2015.
He's a visionary.
A true visionary, a true iconoclast, a true contemporary of his time, you know? I just, wow.
You know, my last point about the first Jurassic World that I think will also segue into the sequels is, again, that tonal inconsistency. It's supposed to have some of the same themes of, you know, repairing broken families and understanding your place within the natural order and stuff. And yet it doesn't understand some of those basic lessons from the first movie. You know, the first movie has some like shocking deaths, and there are shocking deaths in 2 and 3, but they feel tonally consistent with the rest of the movie. What pissed me off maybe most of all in Jurassic World is the most graphic, heinous death in that film is suffered by the little boy's babysitter.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that Jurassic Park 3 is a very cynical movie, but I would go as far as to say that Jurassic World is more cynical than that. Like it feels like the anti-life equation. You know, I was thinking about this. You know, like late stage Robert Zemeckis, late stage Ron Howard, they make movies that could categorically be considered, you know, anti-life, right?
Yeah.
And this movie, in many ways, also feels anti-life.
I like this proposal because, you know, on a connected enough timeline, you're blaming this movie for J.D. Vance.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely, like, think about it. Amy Adams, her career,
Ron Howard, Hillbilly Elegy, and all.
Hillbilly Elegy, right?
I see
Bryce
what you're
Dallas
doing
Howard,
there.
also redhead.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Right. The Howard to Howard connection, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's all there. You just need to keep looking a bit deeper, you know.
But you're right. This is a far more cynical film than 3, plainly.
I think the fact that it takes place on the exact same island too as Jurassic Park, like, The worst thing is the fact that it takes place on the same island as Jurassic Park somehow ends up making it the least egregious in terms of locales of the entire Jurassic World series.
Yeah.
Like, compared to where we go in Fallen Kingdom and where we go in Dominion,
yeah,
somehow going back to Isla Nublar is not the most egregious thing locale-wise of this franchise.
Anything else you want to say about that first one before we blaze through Fallen Kingdom and Dominion?
The divorce stuff, it's sloppy, hate it.
Sucks.
Just very boring, like, doesn't really say anything about that stuff. Yeah, like I mentioned, the kid actor's awful. And this is one of those things where it's like Steven Spielberg for, you know, sometimes he does fumble it, but he always knew how to direct a child actor. You know, he always knew how to actually like do that, how to keep that realism to the child actors, you know, Lost World notwithstanding. Jurassic World just completely forgoes that and instead it just makes them into like stick figures. Yeah, not good. Not a good movie, but somehow not the worst that we have yet to see. Fallen Kingdom.
So here's the struggle with Fallen Kingdom is, you know, in a way, it's the Jurassic movie I've watched even more recently.
Right.
I've also been watching parts of it on mute while we've been recording this to refresh in my memory.
Right.
And I still can't tell you what this movie's about or what's going on or anything discernible about it. It somehow manages to be even more bland than the first Jurassic World.
You know, the crazy thing is there is something interesting you could do with going back to a ruined island, right? Like having them actually contend with the fact that they are no longer the dominant species on that island. And I think that's exactly what Rebirth is going to be doing. I haven't seen the Rebirth yet. I probably won't until it hits some kind of streaming service. But the craziest thing about Fallen Kingdom is all the stuff with the island itself. That's like only the first half hour of the movie, right? Like that part of the movie ends really quickly.
Yeah. And I think it goes a little bit further, but yeah, a
like
lot 45 of it is, minutes.
Yeah, but at the end of it, you're wondering, okay, well, what's the remaining like 3/4 of the movie?
And it's dinosaur trafficking.
Yeah.
And I hear you, like that could be really cool, but they're doing it in the blandest way possible, as with all their other choices, right? And,
yeah,
you know, again, you go.
No, that's it. Like it just feels so like I'm baffled by how hard and how easily they fumble it.
I mean, again, part of the problem is that Chris Pratt is a superhero in this movie. Like, I didn't hear that talked about enough by critics of this franchise. Like, you know, not only can he train a whole team of raptors, he forms some kind of mind link to get what is it, the dinosaur with the horny bowling ball head, like that one breaks through a wall by Chris Pratt whistling at him. Like, really, dude? I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It's called a Stygimoloch. It's a sick dinosaur.
Yeah. It's insane. Like the latter half of this movie is just at an auction.
Right. Yeah, and it's like it's all these politically muddled statements. Like they're trying to make a statement about elites. I don't know. Like, is this movie saying anything coherent or cogent to you?
No, there's the subplot with the granddaughter who is also a clone of the daughter, and the daughter is also the mother to her own clone. Like, there's that whole thing going on.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if at any point during the making of the movie, the scripting of this movie, they stepped back and were like, what is this franchise about?
Yeah.
What is this franchise about? You know, that is, you can say that a lot about this movie. You're going to say it far more about the next movie. But with this one especially, like, by the time they get to we're doing human cloning now. We're doing dinosaur trafficking now. What is the franchise? Like, what is the point of the franchise? Like, Jurassic Park, what is the point of that movie? Like, what's your big takeaway from that first movie?
Well, what if man tried to be God?
Right, and why? What are the consequences of man trying to be God? Right. What would you say the theses for the second and third movies are?
The second one is mostly retreading that, because they're saying like, oh, we're trying to do it again, and the third one, the thesis is dinosaurs are fucking scary. And you know, to the third one's credit, it is consistent in that,
and it's not wrong.
Thesis.
You know, sometimes dinosaurs just do be scary.
But this one, it's like it's trying to do 17 different things all at the same time.
Yeah, it's like trying to make a statement about human cloning, and then it's also trying to make a statement about, you know, like big game hunting, and then trafficking. And that it's just so sloppy, and I think this was the point where they really jumped the shark and left behind what the franchise was truly about. Like, there's really no way you can come back to what Jurassic Park is at its core after this movie. Like, Rebirth, I'm sure Gareth Edwards is gonna try and you know, remake what he enjoyed about that first movie in Rebirth. You know, like, oh, he's somehow, some way, and it's gonna feel very rote and not very interesting, I'm sure. But it I don't know if there's a way you can recover the franchise after Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, it's because this cursed franchise wants to have everything both ways. Like, it does touch on something potentially interesting with these revived dinosaurs then being sold at auctions to become military weapons. But as with everything in this movie, the problem is they want it to be both ways. Like Chris Pratt is explicitly a vet. Like, this movie is saying that, you know, our brave troops, our operators are the coolest, toughest guys, but also the excesses of the military and the military industrial complex, we got to look out for that.
Yeah.
Good God, it is angering.
And, you know, it would be bad enough if it ended there, but it didn't. So you haven't watched Dominion.
I watched the first 15 minutes, but I could barely tell you anything. You watched the first 15
minutes.
Yeah.
This might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Just hands down, I think it might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It has everything that could possibly go wrong with a movie of this nature. You know, bringing back the old cast, trying to rewrite something that, you know, happened in a previous movie, like with the because the whole thing was Jurassic Park 3, divorce happened, right, between Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, right? Like, that was a whole thing in that movie where it's like, it's him reeling after breaking up with Ellie. Yeah. This movie is like, no. That movie doesn't, we need to rectify that. Like, to me, bringing them back together was the equivalent of Nick Spencer trying to undo the events of J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man run in his own Spider-Man run. Because, you know, there's that part of J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man run where, it's revealed that Norman Osborn fucked Gwen Stacy. So,
yes, I do know
15,
that.
what was it, 15 years down the line, Nick Spencer does his own Spider-Man run that is basically just him trying to undo a lot of that. So it's revealed that was actually a hallucination, that Norman Osborn hadn't actually fucked Gwen Stacy. That was just a hallucination created by his son, who wasn't dead. The whole thing. Anyway, convoluted, right? Yeah. And this movie reaches that same level of convolution.
Yeah, I've heard people say that it's Trevorrow trying to retcon a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, it really does feel like I guess in a way, it is the logical next step for the franchise, where it's like, okay, you've brought it to the point of no return with Fallen Kingdom. What's next? Well, it's time to rewrite history. It's time to rectify all the things that I didn't like about, the first few movies. So you have...
Again, what if I was cooler than God?
Right, exactly. Like, bringing back the original three, Dern, Neil, and Goldblum, having them interact. Also, if you're talking about hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby, 3 hydrogen bombs next to 2 coughing babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't bring myself to like hate this movie, because I said it in my review. They weren't even trying with this one, right? Like this is a franchise that is fully aware that it is done from a cultural perspective. It's done. We're done with it. And then of course there's Rebirth after that, which I don't know. But yeah, Dominion, there really isn't much to say about it. Like, it feels like the most culturally vapid product that Hollywood could probably put out. But it was also the third highest grossing film of 2022.
Yeah, it makes me so upset when these stinkers make so much money. One part we didn't touch on with this revival trilogy that I do get a little stuck on is how these movies seem to have kind of a disdain for dinosaurs.
Yeah, this one especially, because the whole thing with this movie is that it's not even about dinosaurs anymore. It's about locusts.
Right.
And the dinosaurs are only just a tool to help against the locusts.
Yeah, it's really weird, because in the first film, there was the movies were not tributes, but they owed a heavy debt to all the research that had been done on dinosaurs.
Right.
And that's not here in this. They're like in that quote I read by Trevorrow, and in the imagery itself, and the fact that locusts supposedly take over this third one, these movies seem bored with dinosaurs, and it assumes the audience is bored too, and that's a kind of animosity I really don't like from modern blockbusters. Like, you shouldn't have to say give dinosaurs a chance. If you make a good movie, audiences will think dinosaurs are awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that they think that like the fascination with dinosaurs is done. We have no need to like care about dinosaurs anymore. It feels like the thing that comes to mind is The End of History. What is it, Francis Fukuyama?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. That's what this franchise's thesis has become. Like, it's the Hollywood equivalent of The End of History, where you don't really need to care about dinosaurs anymore. You don't really need to care about like the relationship between man and nature and society and like history, right? And just how do you come back from this is my question. I haven't seen Rebirth yet, so I don't know what they actually do. Like I mentioned before, it's probably just going to be a retread of the first movie, or the vibe of the first movie, right? But in my mind, Dominion feels like the end point for a franchise that has stopped caring about its own existence, right? It feels like, in some ways, it feels like someone that's been condemned to immortality and doesn't want it.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a good way to describe what happened to that franchise, and probably a good way to close out our Jurassic discussion.
Yeah, I maybe we can come back once we've seen Jurassic World Rebirth. Maybe that is the actual savior of the franchise. Maybe it is the Rogue One of the Jurassic World franchise, and we'll be like, wow, you know what that means? The Last Jedi of the Jurassic World franchise is coming soon.
No.
Do you remember when people were complaining about wokeness in Jurassic World Dominion?
No, that's really funny because I was joking about wokeness earlier, but part of
that was a whole thing where because they had a black female character in that movie, suddenly it became super woke.
Well, I do strongly believe that first movie is the first Jurassic World is one of the first pro-Trump films we've ever gotten.
Okay, quick, elaborate.
Watch the movie with the sound off. The way it films Bryce Dallas Howard, the way it films Chris Pratt, the way it films them together, it tells you everything about how women are supposed to serve men.
Okay.
That's my quick.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Crooked franchise. Really, I don't know how they could save it. I don't know if it's a savable franchise. It's just going to continue existing. New movies are just going to keep coming out. People are going to wonder why they're still making them, what there is left to say. And it continues. Everything just continues until we all die. But the franchise won't. Franchise will continue to live on.
Is this
until morale improves.
A mainline episode? Are we doing the tastemakers? All right, I'll do mine quick. Yes, we are.
Do yours quick.
All right, so for our Tastemakers grab bag, my recommendations, I have two for you. I mentioned Book of Henry. If you want to have a deranged group movie watch, just watch something horrible and inexplicable with your friends, this is the modern era's The Room. I cannot recommend it enough.
This feels like a future episode waiting to happen.
I'm so game, dude. I cannot stop thinking about that movie. I'll leave it there. That's my recommendation.
Really, you're not gonna give like an actual like good.
Okay. I finished Chojin Sentai Jetman. Awesome tokusatsu series. Genuinely a cool thing.
Yes.
That's it for me.
I'm gonna recommend the new Skrillex album. It's called Fuck You Skrillex. You think you're Andy Warhol, but you're not. Heart emoji. Good album. It's like 46 minutes long, and it's great. It's a good album. That's it. That's it for me. We're gonna be like really backlogging a lot of these episodes, so I need to like reserve my recommendations here. But yeah, that's it for Tastemakers Grab Bag, and thank you for sticking with this show, with this episode even. We promise we won't let ourselves go too long to the point where there's no point in doing this in the show, but we just keep doing it anyways because the investors demand that we do it.
That would never happen to us.
That would never happen to us. Please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/MidnightGrapplerAnimals. $2 gets you episodes a week early. $5 gets you that, plus all our bonus episodes and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. Patreon.com/MidnightGrapplerAnimals. Links in the socials are all in the description. Discord server, also in the description. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, questions, comments, concerns, midnightgrappleranimals@gmail.com. And as always,
keep on grappling.
There we go.
What if I
on the
said
dot.
stay hungry? My brain
If you said stay
would have
hungry,
been-
I'd tell them to go listen to our new Gabbing About Gav episode on patreon.com/midnightgrappleranimals, patreon.com/midnightgrappleranimals, $5 a month.